Do you ever feel exhausted from constantly trying to appear okay, flashing small achievements, dressing to impress, or spending to look successful, even when your bank account is running dry? In a world obsessed with appearances, there are those who live the complete opposite way. We call them the quietly wealthy. They dress simply, speak sparingly, and rarely post on social media, yet they command respect from the first glance. Not because they try to stand out, but because they are genuinely different. As the saying goes, still waters run deep and ripe rice bows low. This captures the essence of the quietly wealthy, humble, profound, and awake. They don't rush, don't boast, don't show off, but they know exactly what they're doing. They have money and know how to use it, maintain discipline, and preserve their freedom. They don't need to prove anything to anyone because they know their own worth. And the best part, you can become one of them, a person rich at the core, if you know where to start. Chapter 1: Wealth Without Show. True class stays hidden. When you walk into a room, the loudest talker, the biggest laugher, or the flashiest dresser often grabs attention first. They might be in an expensive suit, sporting a gold-plated watch, regaling everyone with tales of international business trips or million-dollar investments. But more often than not, the most ostentatious people aren't the wealthiest. In fact, the truly rich are often the quietest. They don't need applause to validate them. They don't need admiring glances to feel successful, because they know true wealth doesn't require proof or a spotlight. The difference between loud wealth and quiet wealth lies in how they view their own value. The loudly wealthy crave recognition, visibility, and praise. They invest more in their image than their substance. They buy cars not for transportation, but to be seen as rich. They live in oversized homes and throw lavish parties, not for joy, but to secure their social status. In contrast, the quietly wealthy cherish silence, discretion, and control. They know who they are and don't need the world to confirm it. Why do the quietly wealthy avoid the spotlight? It boils down to 3 words: safety, efficiency, freedom. For safety, they understand that flaunting wealth invites risks. Every time you show off your assets, you're sending a signal to the world. I'm an easy target. From envious glances and public scrutiny to legal troubles, theft, or exploitation. Risks pile up when you reveal too much about what you own. For efficiency, they know a flashy image doesn't create real value. It only inflates costs, increases pressure to keep up appearances, and leads to financial missteps just to save face. The quietly wealthy don't spend to buy fleeting admiration. They use money as a tool to build long-term sustainable systems with minimal risk. For freedom, they know that showing off creates chains. When you live to please others' eyes, you lose your true choices. The quietly wealthy choose freedom over fame, silence over applause, effective action over impressive words. This is why they grow richer while those chasing appearances burn out. A typical quietly wealthy person might live so minimally you'd never guess they're worth millions. No fancy cars with custom plates. They might drive a standard vehicle, eat simple meals, and live in a modest home. But behind that unassuming exterior is a rock-solid financial world, tightly managed investment portfolios, steady passive income streams, and smoothly running business systems. They don't need to prove anything, but when needed, their results speak louder than words. A prime example is Chuck Feeney, the founder of the duty-free shoppers DFS chain. While other billionaires live in million-dollar mansions, Feeney lived in a rented apartment, used public transport, ate at local diners, and quietly donated nearly his entire fortune to charity. He never saw money as a way to elevate his image, but as a tool to create value for others. Because of this, though he lived anonymously, he earned a deeper kind of global respect, not for social status, but for his values. It's not uncommon to find self-made millionaires in Vietnam or worldwide who choose to live under the radar. They register assets through corporate entities, avoid media exposure, and steer clear of showy social scenes. For them, every minute spent on impressing others is a minute not spent strengthening the systems that grant them financial freedom. The quietly wealthy don't race to meet society's expectations. They don't need external symbols to feel complete because their standards come from within, from their ability to master themselves, from clarity about their pursuits, and from the belief that true value outlasts fleeting images built on others' gazes. In a world where everyone wants to look perfect, the quietly wealthy swim against the current. They don't need likes, followers, or posts about their achievements. They know true class isn't in the spotlight, it's in the light that shines from within. When no one's watching, they focus in silence. They step back to build leverage. And when the time comes, they don't need introductions. Their results speak for themselves. Chapter 2. Core Mindset. Money as a tool, not a trophy. The quietly wealthy don't fear running out of money, nor do they worship it. They don't see money as the end goal, but as a means. While many tie their self-worth to their bank balance or judge others by income, the quietly wealthy approach money with a clear, practical mindset. Money is just a tool, a neutral energy source you can use to create choices, freedom, and deeper meaning in life. What sets them apart is how they use money, not how much they have. They don't spend to impress. They don't use money as a billboard for admiration. They use it to buy time, secure freedom, and invest in things that endure beyond market swings. Sustainable health, accumulated wisdom, quality relationships, self-sustaining financial systems, and inner peace. They don't need others to know how much they have because what they value is actively controlling their life, not earning the crowd's applause. Many people buy watches to be called classy, drive luxury cars to be seen as successful, or take lavish trips to post on social media, mimicking the elite. The quietly wealthy are different. They don't define themselves by what they can buy. They might own all those things, but never see them as the core of their worth. They don't ask, what can I buy to be recognized? Why? But what can I buy to live better, lighter, more effectively? They spend strategically. Every expense reflects a deeper goal, not a fleeting thrill. A course to sharpen their mind, a service to save time, an investment for long-term cash flow. These are their intelligent purchases. They don't see spending as self-expression, but as a way to shape their life. By not needing money to show off, they stay clear-headed in financial decisions. This mindset stems from a critical factor: intrinsic self-worth. Modern psychology identifies two types of self-esteem: intrinsic and extrinsic. Those with intrinsic self-worth don't need the world's applause to feel valuable. They believe in their efforts, their principles, and their personal ethics. They live true to themselves, not comparing with others. In contrast, those with extrinsic self-worth need social mirrors to feel validated. They waver when others seem more successful, feel pressured by collective expectations, and often overspend to maintain a worthy image. That's why many fall into debt, not from a lack of money, but from a lack of inner fulfillment. The quietly wealthy avoid this trap. They stand apart from crowd psychology, unmoved by consumer trends or marketing ploys. When society rushes to buy the latest hot item, they pause and ask, do I really need this? Will it create lasting value? If I don't buy it, will I lose anything essential? The answer is usually no. This mindset lets them master their money instead of letting money master their emotions. Rather than flaunting assets, the quietly wealthy focus on growing themselves, mindset, skills, resilience. They know money doesn't create human value, humans create money. If you're strong at the root, competence, thinking, discipline, systems, money will follow naturally. But if you only build the surface, image, brand, flash, money comes and goes quickly. That's why they don't chase proving their wealth. They don't need others to believe they're great or better than anyone. They focus on action and let results speak. They invest in lasting value, not fleeting facades. They might sit next to you in a diner, wearing a plain shirt, using a years-old phone, quietly checking financial reports for businesses they've invested in, and you'd never know because they don't need you to. The less they try to prove their wealth, the richer they become as their energy isn't wasted on performance. They stay focused, building real assets, real experiences, and solid results without needing anyone's cheers. That's the core mindset that makes them rich, not just in money, but in resilience, freedom, and depth of life. Chapter 3: Counterintuitive Financial Habits. Live below your means, invest beyond expectations. Earning a lot doesn't mean you're rich. Plenty of high earners are broke by month's end, while those with modest incomes can steadily build wealth, invest smartly, and own lasting assets. The difference lies in financial mindset, especially the counterintuitive habits of the quietly wealthy. They don't live up to their income, they live below it. They don't use income as a yardstick for lifestyle, but as a foundation for long-term wealth. While many see a raise as a reason to upgrade their car, house, or phone, the quietly wealthy do the opposite. When income rises, they boost their investment rate, not their lifestyle. Every dollar spent is a strategic choice. They don't spend on whims or splurge in moments of joy. They avoid impulsive, emotional purchases. Every expense is weighed against long-term goals. Will this money move me forward? Will it create lasting benefits for health, finances, wisdom, or freedom? If the answer is no, they pass, no matter how flush they are. The biggest gap between the quietly wealthy and the masses isn't income, it's how income is used. While others spend to look rich, buying designer clothes, taking pricey trips, or decorating homes to keep up with peers, the quietly wealthy channel most of their income into income-generating assets. They invest in long-term stocks, cash-flowing real estate, promising businesses, or systems for passive income. They don't wait to have enough to invest. They start early, invest consistently, strategize, learn, and stay patient. Their money flows to places that multiply, not to temporary temptations. Even more striking, the quietly wealthy heavily invest in intangible assets, things not listed on financial statements, but with massive leverage, knowledge, skills, mindset. They don't hesitate to spend on quality courses, in-depth coaching, or mentorship from those ahead of them. They know money can vanish, but the right knowledge and mindset last a lifetime, generating wealth in any circumstance. Their counterintuitive approach shines in their savings and investment ratios. While high earners who live flashily might save nothing, the quietly wealthy can save 40% of their monthly income. They don't see this as stinginess, but as leverage for financial freedom. They understand freedom comes not from spending more, but from knowing what you need and controlling where each dollar goes. A hallmark of the quietly wealthy is their principled budgeting. They don't spend randomly, they allocate clearly. Essentials for living, investments for income, learning for personal growth, and even giving back. They don't use small wins as excuses for lavish self-rewards. For them, the greatest reward is personal growth, not a new purchase. What sets them apart is the core question they ask about money. What can I buy with this? Is a consumer's mindset. How much can this earn me in the future? Is the mindset of a wealth creator. That question separates the poor from the rich, the emotional spender from the strategic investor. The quietly wealthy don't live austerely, but they're deliberate. Freedom follows discipline. They don't need to spend big to feel valuable or own a lot to feel successful. They don't need to prove anything to society. They just need to control their life with clarity, efficiency, and sustainability. They don't need a lottery win, a breakthrough, or a miracle. They just need to do the right thing consistently and deeply. Their wealth doesn't come overnight. It grows through habits, decisions, and repeated wise choices. That's true wealth, brilliantly counterintuitive. Chapter 4: Silent Discipline. Speak little, boast less, act fiercely. Today's world is dominated by image, where words spread faster than actions and loud declarations often outshine quiet persistence. The quietly wealthy choose a different path. They don't announce their starts, proclaim their plans, or chase fleeting motivational trends. They build discipline quietly, a hidden strength that others feel when they're near. For them, discipline isn't suffering, it's the intentional organization of a free life. They know that if they can't control themselves, circumstances, emotions, markets, or others will. And a controlled person isn't free. So their days are a series of conscious choices: what to eat, what to do, where to focus, what to say, when to stay silent. They master themselves before mastering anything else. The quietly wealthy rarely talk about plans, not out of secrecy, but because neuroscience shows that sharing goals too much tricks the brain into feeling accomplished, sapping real motivation. So they stay silent to nurture commitment, turning promises into actions, not posts. They don't share screenshots of their savings, gym check-ins at 5 a.m., or what they're reading, learning, or investing in, but step into their space and you'll see intentional simplicity. Work with them and you'll feel their quiet intensity. Hear them speak and their words carry the weight of real experience, not recycled bestseller quotes. Their discipline shows in the smallest details. They plan their weeks and days, prioritizing quality time and cutting out pointless meetings, distracting news, or empty chatter. They know what deserves focus and what to ignore. Most crucially, they keep promises to themselves, something most people fail at. For the quietly wealthy, self-commitment is sacred. If they vow to finish a book this week, they do. If they decide to avoid impulsive spending this month, they stick to the budget. No excuses about being busy, forgetting, or I'll do it tomorrow. They know every broken promise to themselves chips away at self-trust. And without self-trust, you'll always need external validation, the opposite of freedom. In uncertainty, the quietly wealthy stay steady. When markets crash or others panic, they don't react emotionally but systematically. They avoid impulsive buying, selling, or pivoting just because someone else seems to be winning. They keep their own rhythm, knowing where they're going, why they chose that path, and adjusting only with enough data, not because others are clapping elsewhere. They don't live on inspiration, but on systems. They don't wait for motivation to work. They have clear routines, wake-up times, rest schedules, deep focus periods, recovery moments. These automated systems free up willpower, saving mental energy for big decisions instead of routine struggles. No one applauds when you skip a party to work. No one cheers when you eat healthily, sleep on time, or study instead of splurging on weekends. Discipline doesn't come with fanfare, but the quietly wealthy know sustainable success is built on quiet, repeated right choices no one sees. Their edge isn't natural talent or sudden luck, but doing what's needed even when no one's watching, knowing or praising. That's what turns an ordinary person into an extraordinary one, not in the world's eyes, but in their own life. Chapter 5. Learn without boasting. Knowledge is the quietly wealthy's true luxury. Some people enter a room and, without introduction, command attention with a few concise, weighty words. They don't flaunt degrees, list credentials, or boast about their education, but you can tell they know what they're talking about. These are often the quietly wealthy, rich in the deepest way, rich in knowledge. They don't see learning as a display or a bragging tool. They learn to transform. For them, knowledge is only valuable when absorbed, understood, and acted upon. They don't care if others know where they studied or what certifications they hold. They care about understanding better, doing better, and living smarter. Unlike many who study to pass tests or earn diplomas, the quietly wealthy treat learning as a way of life. There's no finish line, no I'm good enough, no peak of knowledge. The more they learn, the more they see they need to learn. They know the world keeps changing, and only deep, adaptable understanding keeps them ahead in the long run. They invest heavily in their mindset, not shallow motivational hacks, but foundational thinking that lets them see through problems, spot patterns, and make sound decisions in complex situations. They don't learn for quick fixes, but to build strategic thinking systems that work across fields. They learn not just to survive, but to create. They may not talk much, but read voraciously, not to post about it, but to extract insights, understand truths, and turn theory into action. They take meticulous notes, cross-reference old and new ideas, reason independently, and select what fits their context. A book isn't just information, it's a mirror to see what they need to grow. Beyond books, they learn from real people. Mentors, advisors, partners, even employees. They don't assume they know it all, but stay humbly open, believing everyone has something to teach if you're willing to listen. They especially learn from failure without blame, shame, or avoidance. When they stumble, they dissect why, uncovering blind spots in thinking, flaws in systems, or weaknesses in mindset. This turns losses into priceless lessons, often doubling their speed after a misstep. They don't broadcast this because, for them, internal growth is the reward. They don't learn to get by but to dive deep. They skip trendy skills for core ones. Focus, critical thinking, quality decision making, emotional regulation, smart communication, and system coordination. They don't chase quick cash, but sustainable wealth, not shortcuts, but long roads. To others, $1 million watch signals status. For the quietly wealthy, knowledge is their invisible luxury. Their words are deliberate, logical, and potent. Their listening is deep, catching what's unsaid. They don't need to be right or impress, they make others reflect. They're not swayed by information overload. Knowing mastery isn't about knowing more, but understanding deeply, correctly, and acting effectively. In a world flooded with fragmented knowledge, they filter, choosing the little that's right and simplifying complexity into clear action. That's the difference between those who talk well and those who do well. They learn in silence, grow in the shadows, and let results speak. They don't need achievement lists to impress or plaques to feel accomplished. They know true mastery isn't shouting, "I'm great," but letting results silence the room. Chapter 6, Selective Connections. Few friends, high quality, no games for gain. When anyone can become a friend with a tap on a screen, it's hard to tell real relationships from performative ones. Social media makes people think more connections equal more success. But the quietly wealthy know a vital truth. Relationships aren't about quantity, but quality. Not about crowds, but about the right fit. They don't seek bustling social scenes. They don't feel compelled to attend every event, party, or group gathering. It's not coldness. They know every interaction costs time, attention, and energy. Without selectivity, the wrong people or mismatched vibes can drain focus and inner strength. They steer clear of superficial networking, not needing every event to avoid missing out. They don't maintain long lists of casual acquaintances just to feel socially relevant. For them, connection is an art of selection. They don't look for small talk, but for people who can go further together, not just in business, but in depth of thought and character. The quietly wealthy value shared values above all. They connect with those who share their direction, ethics, and commitment to sustainable growth. They don't need someone better, just genuine, deep, and ready to walk the path together. One meaningful, respectful, insightful conversation outweighs 100 loud but shallow chats. They're sharp at spotting toxic relationships, avoiding those who compete, gossip, pretend, or chase trends for attention. It's not about fear of influence, but about valuing their energy and refusing to waste it on pointless conflicts. They need quiet to create, clear space to think, and positive connections to grow. They also don't play for profit. They don't approach people for business deals or social leverage. They know short-term, transactional relationships fade when goals shift. They choose people for who they are, not what they offer. And because they don't calculate, they often gain longer lasting value than expected. Each relationship is an asset, but not one to display. They don't brag, "I know this person, worked with that one, met someone big." They let kindness, credibility, and consistency build their network. The quieter they are, the more trustworthy they become. The more discreet, the more valued. They also have a rare skill, knowing when to walk away. When a relationship no longer fits, isn't healthy, or doesn't align, they don't cling out of politeness or fear of judgment. They know relationships have cycles. Some are for companionship, others for lessons. Letting go at the right time opens space for more valuable connections. Their philosophy is clear. Networks grow in depth, not width. They don't ask, how many people do I know, but how many do I truly trust? Who can stand with me through challenges? Who can lift me in a crisis? The answer doesn't need to be many, just enough. So, while they rarely appear publicly or join crowded gatherings, they have a powerful ecosystem of partners, advisors, and friends built on trust, value, and careful selection. That's an invisible but mighty force, unmatched by superficial ties. For the quietly wealthy, connection isn't about being known by many but being understood by a few, not for exploitation but for companionship, not to fill voids but to walk a meaningful, deep, long journey together. Chapter 7: Simple outside, prosperous inside. A fascinating trait of the quietly wealthy. You can't spot their wealth by looking at them. No tailored suits, no flashy wallets, no roaring cars. Some might seem like ordinary office workers, a neighbor biking to the market, or a soft-spoken friend in your group. But beneath that simplicity runs a sophisticated machine of finance, thinking, and systems. Their simple lifestyle isn't from lack, but from choice. The richer they are inwardly, the less they need to decorate outwardly. They build essence, not image, depth, not attention. In a world where designer brands signal status, they choose plain, high-quality, durable clothes, easy to match, lasting years. They know spending 30 minutes picking an outfit wastes focus on trivial things. Time and mental energy are precious assets reserved for bigger decisions. Investments, growth, self-development, and resource preservation. You rarely hear them say, I deserve to treat myself. Their greatest reward isn't fleeting purchases, but control over emotions, spending, and thinking. Their homes follow this philosophy. No need for penthouses or sprawling estates. Sometimes it's just a tidy, minimalist, quiet apartment. They know external spaces shape internal ones. A house cluttered with objects, art, colors, or unnecessary luxuries scatters the mind. Every item is a signal, draining focus. So they simplify for clarity in both home and head. They don't collect assets to show off but to operate. They won't boast about their real estate, stocks, or businesses. But if you earn their trust, you'll see a meticulously managed financial system. Steady cash flows, diversified portfolios, calculated risks, and strategic leverage. Their simplicity isn't just aesthetic, it's a lifestyle strategy. Fewer things to manage mean more time and energy for what matters. Building lasting wealth, nurturing long-term health, maintaining quality relationships, and preserving inner peace. They don't fear being mistaken for ordinary. They avoid being the center of attention. The more they rely on real ability, the less they need external light. This simplicity is their armor. By not showing off, they dodge envy, gossip, and pressure to maintain an image, protecting their wealth and peace. The less they depend on external validation, the freer they are inside. They don't buy to match others, spend to boost image, prove status, or soothe emotions. They spend to create leverage, enhance productivity, preserve clarity, or expand potential. Every financial choice, no matter how small, has a clear purpose. If you meet someone unflashy, reserved, yet whose actions carry weight, whose words hit the core, whose life reflects awareness and sharpness, pay attention. They might be among the wealthiest you'll ever know. Not rich in possessions, but rich in freedom from constraints, untouched by the need to boast, compare, or uphold an image. They live simply but deeply, own little but strongly, and simplify to prosper. Chapter 8: Wealth from Value, Not Image. When personal image becomes a new currency, many get swept into looking successful instead of being valuable. Social media fuels this, rewarding polished facades, curated photos, eloquent captions, endless achievement lists, luxury trips, or startup stories spun like fairy tales. The quietly wealthy stand apart. They don't chase image because they know it might fool the crowd but never themselves, or replace the real value a person brings. For them, wealth isn't bank balances or others' opinions. It's the ability to create meaningful impact, knowing what they've done for others, what they've improved in their community, what foundations they've built without fanfare. Their wealth comes from positive influence, not applause. They seek effectiveness and sustainability, not attention. While others invest in image for admiration, they invest in products to solve problems. While others buy followers, they build teams. While others measure success by fame, they measure it by the real benefits they deliver. Their value lies not in media mentions, but in how many people they've helped move forward. They don't need to prove anything to the world because every day they prove it to themselves through actions, results, and tangible or intangible impact. That's the most enduring wealth, unseen at first, but unshakable. They know image can be bought, but value takes time, effort, and sincerity to build. A lasting brand isn't built on loud ads, but on real customer experiences. A strong business doesn't survive on PR, but on repeated trust from users. A person with lasting influence isn't the most famous, but the most reliable. The quietly wealthy don't trade value for fame. They avoid viral stunts, reality shows for relatability, or books written just to top charts if they lack depth. They don't do things they'd be ashamed to look back on. That's how they build credibility, something no one can buy or fake. Here's the beauty: true value spreads naturally, no ads or hype needed. A genuinely helpful product gets word of mouth buzz. A truly trustworthy person gets sought out even if they're nowhere to be seen. The quietly wealthy understand this. They plant seeds quietly and let value bloom over time. You'll find them behind the most enduring brands, but their names aren't in the headlines. They back businesses supporting hundreds of employees, yet never take the stage. They write books that truly inspire without glitzy launch events, because results are their clearest proof of value. Everything else is just decoration. Living richly from value requires unwavering commitment to what's right. In a world of shortcuts and dazzling scams, they choose the slow, real path. They reject tempting deals if they clash with ethics, sacrifice the spotlight for inner standards, and don't just want wealth, they want to deserve it. By going against the grain, they're often lesser known, but those who know them trust them completely. They don't need a million followers, just a handful of strategic partners for life. They don't need applause, just a few genuine voices saying, "I changed because of what you did." That's the greatest, richest reward. They don't need to stand out because true value doesn't need lights, praise, or image. They're rich from the roots, truly wealthy. Chapter 9. The Journey to Quiet Wealth. Transform from within. No one is born quietly wealthy. There's no special bloodline or school teaching this lifestyle. Quiet wealth is the result of a deep, awakened transformation where you dare to face your truth, let go of external glitz, and build a foundation from within, step by steady step, in silence. Their journey often starts at an ordinary moment, maybe after a setback, a failure, or a simple realization: the life I'm living doesn't reflect who I want to be. So they begin not with grand declarations, but with a fundamental question: what truly matters in my life? 1. Start at the root. Shift your mindset. Every lasting change begins with awareness. The quietly wealthy stop living by old beliefs like, "I must show off to be respected," "I need to make money fast," or "I need to look successful to get ahead." They question ingrained assumptions. What am I living for? What's draining my energy? What's my true value when no one's watching? Shifting from outward focus to inner depth is the first, most critical step. 2. Take small steps. Quiet, steady action. Mindset leads to action. They don't seek dramatic overhauls, but start with small, consistent, correct steps. Waking 30 minutes earlier to read, tracking every expense, having social media time, saving 10% of income despite debts, prioritizing health seriously. These are small bricks building a new life's foundation. No one claps, no one notices, but they don't need that. They know true value needs time to ripen in the dark before blooming in the light. 3. Build inner strength. Discipline is freedom's foundation. The quietly wealthy don't live on inspiration, but on systems. They know internal discipline is the only thing keeping life from overwhelming them. When others quit, they persist. When others take shortcuts, they stay true. When someone shines brightly online, they keep quietly rooting themselves. Their resolve isn't cold, it's knowing nothing's more dangerous than a life without self-mastery. 4. Restructure relationships. Choose companions, not crowds. They learn to let go of draining relationships and keep only those that nurture. They leave empty gossip groups and showy meetups. They seek real conversations where depth trumps volume. They realize true wealth isn't solitary, but doesn't need a crowd. Just the right people, with aligned energy and vision. 5. Decide to change. You don't need money, just commitment. The greatest paradox: you don't need wealth to live like the quietly wealthy. No big house, fancy car, or millions required. You just need a decision. Shift from outward display to inward growth, from showing off to building value, from seeking admiration to living proudly. Nothing needs buying except your own resolve. To start living like the quietly wealthy today, begin here with 7 habits for inner wealth. 1. Write down 3 priorities each morning to live intentionally, not swept away by the world. 2. Save 10% of your income for the future. Even a little plants a seed. 3. Practice purposeful silence. Do more. Speak only when needed. 4. Cut social media time in half, replacing it with 10 pages of quality reading daily. 5. Review weekly spending to ensure you're investing in real value. 6. Actively say no to people, tasks, or environments that distract or drain you. 7. Ask daily, did I live true to my core values today? These small habits spark profound change. Quiet wealth isn't a title, a fashion statement, or a trendy lifestyle. It's an awakened, steadfast commitment to doing what's right and sowing real value. You don't need anyone's approval, because when you truly become quietly wealthy, you no longer need to prove it. You just keep living as someone who knows, I choose value over facades, inner strength over fleeting glory, and a real life where results speak louder than words.